Part 33. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 336. One shift arrives, followed by 2 shifts and 3 shifts. I closed the small black room and coded it all at once. Dear friends, this is the result of Nuan being closed for a day. I hope the watch will jump, otherwise Nuan will be sad. It's very hard to live alone with a secret. I want to live a real life. Chu Xia stared at Zhou Mikang seriously. Will you help me realize this wish? Of course I would. Zhou Mikang sat down around her, holding her in his arms like a child, with rare tenderness in his eyes. Chu Xia, thank you for your trust in me. I know that if you weren't worried that I would die outside, you wouldn't have said all this, and I can imagine how much you struggled in your heart before you said this. In order for you to be yourself happily and truly in the future, I must let myself come back alive. In this life, you can only be my wife, Zhou Mikang, and you still have to bear children for me, and you still have to be with me holding a grandson. This matter is settled like this, and none of us are allowed to go back on our word. Chu Xia snorted helplessly. You are a person who will never forget your dominance. What you said earlier was quite touching, but the latter. She shook her head, pursed her mouth and stopped talking. I'm a soldier, and a soldier has to be straightforward, Zhou Mikang said with a smile in his eyes. Now, the person closest to you in this world is me. It feels good. No, Chu Xia immediately retorted, the people closest to me are my parents, and your position in my heart is only possible to be parallel with them. There is no possibility of replacement. As for when you can be parallel, it depends on your performance. Don't worry. I'll make that day come sooner. You have to treat my parents well in the future, and you can't ignore them just because I told you the truth. In this world, they are the people who love me most unconditionally. Without them, it would be difficult for me to persevere. Fool. Zhou Mikang nodded Chu Xia's forehead. What's going on in my little head? How could I not pay attention to them because of what you told me? On the contrary, I will only respect them more and be their daughter. It's your luck, and it's also my luck. Yes, if I met the typical parents of this era, I probably wouldn't be able to bear it. Chu Xia described to Zhou Mikang the relationship between parents and children in future generations in detail. When her voice fell, Zhou Mikang looked scared, and then hugged her even tighter, and unconsciously pressed his cheek to her face. You are too brave, Chu Xia. You are really brave. You are so strange. Chu Xia couldn't help laughing. You were born in this era, how could you like my personality? How gentle and obedient. You. Really blessed not to enjoy. What I want is a life partner who can listen to me and talk to me. It's not a good wife and mother who does laundry and cooking, nor an answerer who can only answer yes. You have a lot of problems. Chu Xia gave him a white look. It's purely the type that deserves a beating. Then, his expression changed. Zhou Mikang, although I come from the future, I can only know superficial phenomena about the development track and so on. If there are too many, I really can't help you. As for this war, I know it will break out at the beginning of next year. I don't know the details of the battle, but I know a few famous battles and I can tell you about them. Zhou Mikang's expression also became serious. Okay, tell me, and even if you tell me, I can't use it as a complete basis. After all, there are many things that cannot be explained. After you came to this era, some things, whether this has changed is still unknown. You told me, I will use it as a basis, detailed war analysis, or deduction based on the actual situation, so don't put pressure on this. I promise you will definitely come back, you will definitely come back. Chu Xia sorted out his thoughts, and told Zhou Mikang all the famous battles he knew and the memorabilia, and at the end, he smiled and said, do you now feel that choosing Mr. Long was particularly correct? Chu Xia's description of the future society shocked Zhou Mikang, and he didn't recover for a while. No matter how big the heart is, it will take time to digest hearing such a thing suddenly, which is why Chusia hesitated for a long time before deciding to tell him. She had also read novels about rebirth and time travel before, and the protagonists in it all chose to keep this matter a secret without exception. If it is not a last resort, she will choose to keep it secret. After all, there are too many uncontrollable factors to tell this kind of thing. If she didn't like Joe Mikang's character and thanked him for everything he did for her, she wouldn't dare to say it. Of course, when everyone is wrong, if that's the case, she has nothing to regret. It's better than him having an accident on the battlefield and living in guilt all her life. However, she still has a certain amount of confidence in her ability to recognize people, although she doesn't know where this confidence comes from. Chusia, your description filled me with hope. Joe Mikang finally withdrew his thoughts, and he looked at Chusia seriously. No matter what caused your arrival, one thing is for sure, because of you, the country can reduce the immeasurable loss. Many families do not have to be torn apart. You are a hero. Can you stop talking to me like this? Chusia shuddered. I have a feeling of being commended at a conference. Joe Mikang looked at her wonderingly. Don't you like to be commended? I like to be praised, but I don't like to be praised with a false feeling. You know that I told you all this without thinking so much. No matter in the future or now, I am an ordinary person. I just want my family be safe and healthy, and if you can, it is enough to help others as much as you can. As for the righteousness of the country, don't put it on my head. This hat is too heavy, and I will be under psychological pressure. If you talk like this again, I will regret telling you everything. Okay, don't say that. Joe Mikang shook his head amusedly. I just expressed my feelings all at once. Don't worry, I won't give up my relatives for the country like my father did. What if that happens? Chusia stared at him seriously. I mean, what if you have to choose between me and the national interest? Joe Mikang's expression became serious. Lin Chuxia, you have to trust me. Even if you die, I will not reveal your secret. You can rest assured. Hey. Chuxia sneered. I don't believe you, I just asked. This question is basically the same as who you saved first when I fell into the river with your mother, hee. Joe Mikang narrowed his eyes. Can I understand that you have fallen in love with me a little bit, so you ask me this kind of question? Stop being narcissistic. Chuxia gave him a white look. That's not it. Don't be shy, whether you admit it or not. The fact is that you have really fallen in love with me, otherwise, you wouldn't worry about my life and death, and wouldn't tell me such an important thing. Joe Mikang smiled proudly. Only someone as good as me is worthy of your love, you know. Can you be more narcissistic? Chuxia stared into his eyes. I told you everything, don't you feel uncomfortable? No. Really do not have. Certainly. Tell me, if I were an old woman in her 80s, would you feel very sad? This assumption does not exist, and I don't want to deduce it. What if I lied to you? I was not born in 1909, but in 1909. You think you are an old goblin. How old were you from 1909 to 2010? However, if that is the case, I will make a lot of money. I have nearly 100 years of life experience, so help me. How busy are you? Chuxia. After a long while, she cleared her throat. If I were really an old goblin over 100 years old, you wouldn't feel bad, and I would too. I really can't imagine. Find someone who can. What would it be like to be your great-grandson's husband? Tisk tisk. Haha. Joe Mikang smiled and pecked her lips. Chuxia, I am very happy that you told me about you. Compared to you being 9 years younger than me, I prefer you who are 7 years younger than me. Of course, this secret can only be known by the two of us. As he spoke, he pecked her lips lightly. Seeing that Chuxia didn't resist, he became a little bit amused. She had already been mentally prepared, and she didn't reject Joe Mikang, nor did she feel any resistance or discomfort. Chusia reached out and climbed up to his neck, and took the initiative to send her soft lips up, warm and soft. The little tongue lightly licked on his lips, and then quickly retracted. How could he resist her teasing? His breathing immediately became heavy. She was sitting in his arms, her little hands were moving back and forth on his back, scratching her fingers from time to time. He felt his whole body was about to burn, and the last sliver of reason was telling him that he could not continue, otherwise the consequences would be terrible. Yes. Feeling the sudden stiffness of his body, Chusia's lips gently moved to his ear, stroking his earlobe back and forth, and whispered softly, "Brother, I am your wife. Brother, I am your wife. Brother, I am your wife." As if possessed by a demon, these words swirled in his heart. He had never felt that being called brother felt so good. Even so, he didn't let his passion burn. "Chusia, won't you regret it?" His voice was hoarse and sensual, which made Chusia, who was already teased, feel a little bit emotional. His body became hot, and he twisted and rubbed in his arms. "It's so annoying." This coquettish voice, like a bay of rippling spring water, relieved him of all burdens. She is his wife and he is her husband. He has already promised her that if he wants to come back, he will definitely come back. There is nothing taboo. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 337. The second watch arrives. A moment is worth $1,000, and after thinking everything through, Zhou Mikang didn't waste any more time. He got up and hugged Chusia and strode towards the bed. He gently put her on the bed, pecked her forehead lightly, and kissed her lips again. A deep kiss was printed on the top. "Wait for me for 5 minutes." After finishing speaking, he quickly rushed into the bathroom. Listening to the sound of water rushing inside, Chusia had black hair. This man's self-control really taught her a lot, although she had never experienced such a thing, and she didn't know much about men, but just from the side those who have learned also know that ordinary men are absolutely unable to do this. It is said that men are animals with lower body thinking. Can he be classified as an exception? A faint smile appeared on the corners of Chusia's lips unconsciously. No woman is willing to marry a philandering radish. At the same time, no woman hopes that her husband's obsession with her is only because of her body. A woman's youth is only a few years. What about when you grow old? At this time, he can still show this kind of due respect. Just as he himself said, what he is looking for is an equal soulmate who can listen to him and talk to him. She is honored to be recognized by him. Glancing quietly at the body wrapped in the nightgown, she blushed unconsciously. Speaking of which, the gods have not treated her kindly, although in this era when the poor and the white are somewhat gender neutral, they first gave her a good father and mother, and then gave her a husband who really cared for her, and gave her how many women desire to have a proud face and an exquisite figure? It all came true here. If a person gains too much, there must be a loss to complement it. So, swap her from that era to this one. It's not something unacceptable, otherwise. With all these blessings, she still has to worry about it. When the sound of running water disappeared, she unconsciously turned her gaze to the bathroom door. The door opened, and a muscular man with a bath towel around his waist came out wiping his wet hair. The perfect mermaid line felt unbearable to look at. "You have a really good figure." Chusia didn't hide her appreciation at all, and waved at the man. "Come here, let me see if your muscles are real." Zhou Mikang had black lines all over his head. Dare to tell her true identity, she didn't hide it at all, but he likes her for being so real. Throwing down the wet towel in his hand, he climbed onto the bed with a smile on his face, his eyes flickering with the excitement of the big bad wolf seeing the little white rabbit. "Come on, let you try for free, but you will be at your own risk." She was ashamed as hell, but Chusia never admitted that she was cowardly, and stretched out her little hand tremblingly. Touch his muscular chest muscles. Nodding, "Well, not bad, much better than a bodybuilder. His face turned black all of a sudden. Eyes narrowed dangerously. Have you ever touched the chest muscles of a bodybuilder? I've seen it, but I haven't touched it, she nodded without knowing the danger. With a look of regret. So, you really want to touch it? Occasionally I have thought about it. Chusea's little hand continued to move down. Rubbing back and forth on his mermaid line, it's really not easy to train these 8-pack abs. The most I've ever seen is a 6-pack. Yeah. Well, she nodded, still immersed in the memories of the past. I tell you, a man has 8-pack abs, and the lethality to a woman is really indescribable. Including you. Someone continued to go offline. I'm also a woman, different from the gentleness before. He pressed her under him crazily, sucking her lips hard, while his big hands climbed up to the breasts of his chest, kneading hard. It hurts. She frowned, slightly wrinkled. He twisted his body in resistance. From now on, you won't be able to look at other men's bodies, you know, he warned her, suppressing the desire fire that was about to burst out. What a domineering man. A good girl doesn't suffer from immediate disadvantages. She softened her voice. With you here, how can I look at other people's bodies? Are you thinking too much? It's more or less. His muscular body deliberately swayed in front of her eyes. I'll let you see enough today. As he said, he tore off the towel around his waist. Different from the shyness of other girls, Chusea blinked her eyes in shock, and looked at him weakly. You have to be sympathetic, otherwise, I refuse to be your wife. Is there any compliment that makes a man prouder than this? Her skin was white and smooth, and her hands were as soft as cream. He bent down, as if paying homage, and let his kisses print from her forehead to her toes. Just lying naked in front of him like this, she felt a little ashamed, but thinking of how long she had made up her mind, she lay straight and let him touch and kiss every inch of her body. Chusea, take it easy, I will cherish you. He stroked her back lightly with his big hand, again and again. Gradually, her nervousness receded little by little, and she saw his violent forbearance. The blue veins in his heart immediately warmed up, and he hugged his neck cooperatively, responding to his affectionate kiss. Gradually, she felt a strange agitation in her body, which made her feel itchy, and she unconsciously twisted her body to get closer to him. His big hand was circling on her bright red cherry. It wasn't until her cheeks were flushed with emotion that she covered her body and tried to test her flower core with her fingers. Yeah. All the emotion tide faded away at this moment, only the feeling of pain remained. Women have to go through the step. She gritted her teeth and resisted, not letting tears overflow her eyes. Chusea, Chusea. He stopped his movements in fright, and called her softly, recalling what he had heard and what he had read quietly in the book. He put his fingers to the stamens, and circled gently. Sia, take it easy, this time in the past, it's fine, Sia, take it easy. Either it was the effect of psychological hints, or the reason she didn't understand. The pain gradually disappeared, and the part he kneaded with his fingers produced a feeling that was extremely strange to her, and along with it, her heart itched again. Her body she moved uncontrollably, feeling that this seemed to relieve the itching in her heart and the discomfort in her lower body, so she moved again. He chuckled lightly and straightened his waist. Little fool, let Weifu do it. I hate it. She bit on his strong arm, but her body unconsciously followed his movements. Feeling her cooperation, he was greatly encouraged, but he didn't dare to be too fierce all at once, while paying attention to her. Look, while doing waist exercises. His sympathy moved her deeply. She hugged him tightly, and whispered in his ear, I can do it. I can. Only this sentence echoed in his mind, until she hugged his body tightly. She was the first person in this world who was so close to him, inseparable woman. You have to be responsible to me. Throwing this sentence, she fell into a drowsy sleep. A smile appeared on his lips. He rolled over and got out of bed, washed the warm towel, and wiped her body carefully. The jade-like luster and softness in his hand caused his body to respond quickly again. With a wry smile, he helped her wipe her body, and quickly rushed to the bathroom to take a cold shower for himself. This time, he took a little longer to take a shower, and he didn't come out until a quarter of an hour. Lying on her side, holding her in his arms, he fell asleep amidst the faint fragrance and her even breathing. This was the most solid sleep he had in all these years. Xia, be obedient, let's go down to eat. Okay. The relationship has made substantial progress, and Zhou Mikang called Chu Xia just like Zhao Yulan and Lin Bao He. You go down first, just say I'm not feeling well and want to sleep for a while. Chu Xia pushed him, I'm really not feeling well, please be considerate, okay. I'm uncomfortable and I have to go down to eat. Zhou Mikang forcibly picked her up from the chair, don't think that I don't know your little thoughts, is it useful to hide? You still have to face it sooner or later, it's better to be open now. Go down. Let me go. Chu Xia struggled desperately, give me a little while to build up my mind, and I will definitely go down. If you force me down like this, I guarantee you will regret it. Helpless, Zhou Mikang had no choice but to put her down, who made the eyes of his mother and grandma poisonous. If his mother didn't rush to talk about this matter, it wouldn't be like this. Lin Yangkaiu, who was sitting on the sofa and chatting with Mrs. Zhou, sneezed heavily, and then rubbed her nose. Who is talking about me? Zhou Xiangping, who just opened the door and came in, answered with a smile, it's me, I'm talking about you. Mom. Why are you here so early? Have you had breakfast yet? Where's Liao Hui? In view of the fact that her daughter had a lot of dissatisfaction with the Liao family because of the previous incident, Lin Yangkaiu kept a close eye on her, fearing that her willfulness would make a good case. The family affairs toss is gone. Liao Hui's mother is a little unreliable, and her actions make her very contemptible, but Liao Hui treats her daughter sincerely. It is easy to get a valuable treasure, but it is difficult to find a lover. She can't let her daughter throw away a lover without knowing it well. Who knows whether Zhang Shui is determined or not. As for Mr. Liao, it's not that he doesn't care about the life and death of his granddaughter-in-law's family, but because of his personality, he is overly cautious. However, considering the persecution he has suffered, it is understandable. Moreover, even though he locked Zhou Xiangping up during that time, he himself was doing activities for the Zhou family. No matter whether he played a fundamental role or not, he did his best. And the old lady, Mrs. Liao, has always loved her daughter very much, but she can't be the master of Mr. Liao. Liao Hui's father is also a good-tempered man, let alone be the master of Mr. Liao. Therefore, based on the above analysis, Lin Yangkaiu's anger towards the Liao family has long since dissipated, and naturally she doesn't want her daughter to continue holding on to her mistakes and ruin her own happiness in the end. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 338. These few chapters are afraid that everyone will be uncomfortable, so I closed the little black room and coded it out once. Please praise. Mom, why are you so unwilling that I like me to go home? Every time I come back, I ask why she came back again. Zhou Xiangping sat down next to Mrs. Zhou, humming dissatisfiedly, Grandma, is it you? Annoy me too. Your mother is doing it for your own good, don't pretend to be ignorant here. Mrs. Zhou pulled her hand away from her sleeve, answer your mother's words, hurry up. Oh, my status is indeed getting worse day by day. Liao Hui is going back to the county today. I had an early meal, so I sent him to the station and then came back home. Although Zhou Xiangping was complaining, her eyes were full of smiles. Her mother and grandma treated her like this, which showed that they did not regard her as a pawn in the marriage, but really loved her and hoped that she would live a happy life. Compared with a few close sisters, she felt that she was born in Joe's family, so she was very happy. Josei, have you ever thought about transferring work to Josei's side? Lin Yangkai looked at her daughter seriously. With your temper, it's impossible for you to be very promising. Why don't you stay with Josei and take good care of her? Zhou Xiangping curled her lips. Mom, you decided to let me follow Zhang Shui because of Zhang Shui looking for Liao Hui. Why do you want to make my work ability worthless? Lin Yangkai didn't argue with her, and followed her way. Okay, Mom wronged you. No matter what the reason is, Mom's meaning is very clear. What do you think? Zhou Xiangping looked at Mrs. Zhou. Grandma, do you want me to go to Liao Hui's side too? Xiao Si. Grandma and your mother are just reminding you that although you two grew up together, if you live apart for a long time, it will affect your relationship. Besides, you have been married for a few months. There is no movement in the stomach, and if your mother-in-law and the others don't say anything, she must be worried. Are you? Many people have been married and separated for 30 to 40 years. I think they are still living well. If they only live apart for a period of time and they find another woman, it only shows that he is not a man worth marrying. Grandma, Mom, I know you are doing it for my own good, but for the time being, I don't want to go there yet. If I go like this, won't it be the same as bowing to my mother-in-law and forgiving her for pulling the strings for Liao Hui and Zhang Shui? Is it useful for you to be stiff with her like this? Lin Yangkai looked at her daughter helplessly. Little 4, marriage is not the same as marriage. If you are like others and just want a marriage, then it's okay for you to divide up like this. The key point. Don't you want a marriage with deep feelings? Don't be together. Where did you come from, so deep feelings? Yes. You grew up together, but is the relationship at that time the same as it is now? At that time when you quarreled, he could beat you and you could beat him. Is it possible now? Mom. Zhou Xiangping's hair was black. What are you talking about? When did I fight with him? You are wronging us. Look, I was defending him just now. Don't be so stubborn. Mom just saw that you couldn't do without Liao Hui, so she forced you. Do you think your mother and I did that to your mother-in-law? Really don't mind? If it hadn't been for this incident, I would have come to his house and smashed his house. Now. Lin Yangkai sighed and waved her hands. Forget it, I have to forgive her, knowing what she is like. People, just don't expect much in the future. Who can't live without Liao Hui? Make him beautiful. Zhou Xiangping stared at her mother furiously. Mom, don't say such things anymore. If it is heard by outsiders, it's true. What's the matter? Then my mother-in-law will be even more lost. You guys. Mrs. Zhou smiled and shook her head. Don't reject someone completely for just one thing. Josei, think about it carefully. Although your mother-in-law was not very happy when Liao Hui chose you, but has she ever felt sorry for you since you married? She never said anything about you growing up in your mother's house, right? It is indeed wrong for her to make another plan for Liao Hui, but if you think about it in another way, her behavior can be forgiven. She has never liked you, and it is because of the relationship between the two elders and Liao Hui's persistence that she agreed. You are the daughter-in-law of the Liao family. Well, to put it more bluntly, she can't interfere with this matter at all, she can only accept it. So after something happened in our house and your husband didn't allow you to go home, she felt like she was holding back. The gas in my stomach finally came out. As for her matchmaking between Zhang Shui and Liao Hui, she may not really want to change her daughter-in-law, she just wants to take this opportunity to make you feel a little bit of a crisis, to pay more attention to your husband's family, and to her. She hadn't been able to take charge of anything in the Liao family all her life, and finally got her son to marry a wife, so she couldn't help but think a little bit. You, don't be as knowledgeable as her, It's not worth it to ruin your relationship with Liao Hui for her. Listen to grandma, discuss with Liao Hui, see if he has any suitable jobs there, transfer you there, and ask him to tidy up and prepare the house in advance. Maybe after a period of two-person world, you will not be happy to let you come back to live with your mother-in-law's family. Think about it, when it's just the two of you, you can do whatever you want, and you don't have to worry about who doesn't like it comfortable, right? Grandma, I'll listen to you, Zhou Xiangping said while looking at Lin Yangkai with a smile. Mom, Grandma is good at persuading people. It's not like you. By the way, you are now a mother-in-law with two daughters-in-law. Don't make mistakes. My mother-in-law's problems will be annoying. The old lady Zhou said with a smile, your mother won't make that mistake, but Grandma, she made a lot of mistakes before. Fortunately, Chu Xia is a good boy and doesn't care about it. Otherwise, Xiaomi will definitely not answer this question. Hey, it's so important for a man to marry the right wife. Third brother and third sister-in-law. Zhou Xiangping gestured, not together yet. Hey, Lin Yangkai sighed, and slapped her daughter again. Why worry so much? There is nothing you don't worry about. Don't get involved in your third brother's affairs. Don't think mom didn't remind you, your third brother not as easy talking as mom. Who wants to mix it up? Don't I like the third sister-in-law? The third brother has to go on a business trip for so long. If their relationship is not stable, will you be at ease? It should belong to our family, and we can't run away no matter what. It shouldn't belong to our family. It's useless to force Mrs. Zhou rubbed her sore eyes. Your third brother is not your eldest brother. He knows it well, and there is nothing to worry about of. Third brother and third sister-in-law are here. Zhou Xiangping waved her paw in greeting as she said, good morning, third brother and third sister-in-law. Good morning, fourth sister Chu Xia hurriedly responded, then politely greeted Lin Yangkai and Mrs. Zhou, and looked around suspiciously. Where are grandpa and dad? I left in the middle of the night, and I don't know what to do all day long. Lin Yangkai pulled Chu Xia to sit beside her. Did you sleep well last night? Did the mother-in-law see it? Chu Xia's face turned red, and she tried to keep her voice steady. I slept well. Sister-in-law 3, are you hot? Zhou Xiangping looked at her suspiciously. Why is your face so red? It's too hot. Chu Xia hurriedly slapped his paws. I'm wearing a little too much. While saying that, he murmured at Zhou Mikang, I said it's not that cold today, you don't believe me. Zhou Mikang stared at her blankly. You are weak, so what should you do if you catch a cold? Is it important to look good or not to get sick? Chu Xia is your daughter-in-law, not your daughter, so you can't speak nicely, Lin Yangkai said to her son, and then comforted her. Mom tried it, you don't wear too many of these, it's cold outside. Is the meal ready? Zhou Mikang glanced at the time and hurried out. I'm running out of time, I'll go to the cafeteria to have breakfast. Chu Xia, you should also go to the hospital cafeteria to eat. Okay. Chu Xia quickly got up, trotted and followed Zhou Mikang out the door. Seeing the figures of the two people disappear, and the old lady Zhou and Lin Yangkai didn't say anything, Zhou Xiangping stared at them with a look of surprise. Is it true that you didn't make breakfast? Of course not. Lin Yangkai greeted the kitchen. Lu Ma, pack your breakfast. Hey. After a reply, the sound of clearing up the dishes came from the kitchen. What do you mean? Zhou Xiangping stared at the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law with a puzzled look on her face. What the hell are you doing? Why don't you let them eat after the meal is ready? Really, I'll go and see if they've left. Don't worry about it, Lin Yangkai grabbed her. Didn't you see that your third sister-in-law is embarrassed? You child, you really have no eyesight. It's not the first day you get married, so what's the point of embarrassment? Zhou Xiangping thought for a while, then slapped her forehead fiercely. I don't know what you want to talk to her about. Stop thinking about it, go up and call your elder brother and sister-in-law down for dinner, Lin Yangkai said while pushing her. Hurry up. My God. Zhou Xiangping looked at the two of them and went upstairs suspiciously. Mrs. Zhou and Lin Yangkai looked at each other, and they both saw comfort in each other's eyes. Mom, in early summer, we live with our Xiaomi wholeheartedly. Lin Yangkai smiled happily. Otherwise, with our Xiaomi's temperament, I will definitely not force her. Comparing our hearts to our hearts, we all have to take good care of this child in the future, as well as her father and mother. We must also take good care of them, so that they can live a good life without making them feel uncomfortable. Mrs. Zhou had a headache. It would be great if there was a way to make them stay. I think Chuxia has a deep relationship with them. If they go back, Chuxia must always miss them. After thinking for a while, Lin Yangkai said, what they care about is that Chuxia is not able to support them now, so they don't want to stay here to burden their daughter. The fundamental reason for thinking this way is that we are afraid that we will treat Chuxia badly, so I think we can consider finding a job for them, and let them gradually understand that our family doesn't mind them living with their daughter at all. Mom, do you think this will work? First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 339. As soon as the update arrived, Nuan expressed that she was speechless. Yesterday's bridal chamber wedding was actually reported and requested to be re-edited. From now on, it can only be a lantern party. I've thought about this method a long time ago, and I've tried them quietly, but in the end, they rejected it straight away. What they want to see is that Chuxia will be promising, instead of relying on her in-laws' family for everything. Yang Kaiu, you also know about Chuxia's grandparents. They were severely hurt by the old man and old lady. I'm afraid that one day, we will change our faces, and Chuxia will not be able to live. The old lady Zhou sighed, forget it, let's discuss it with Chuxia later, it's better to listen to her opinion on this matter. All right, Lin Yangkai nodded, agreeing with her mother-in-law's opinion, and when she turned her head and saw Zhou Zikang and Yu Tao going downstairs behind Zhou Xiangping, she helped the old lady up. Mom, let's have breakfast first. Where are Xiaomi and Chuxia? Zhou Zikang asked. Lin Yangkai smiled and blamed, your grandfather, your father, and your second uncle and aunt are not here. Why didn't you see it? When Grandpa and Dad left, I happened to come out to pour water. Didn't my second uncle and aunt make an appointment to see Zhongkang early this morning? What can I ask? Zhou Zikang stared at his mother wonderingly. You don't look right, what happened? No, what's the matter? I thought you and your brother were following the rules. Lin Yangkai greeted Yu Tao, Tao, sit down and eat. Zhou Zikang looked at Lin Yangkai for a while, then shook his head with a smile. Mom must have a secret that she doesn't want me to know, and it's definitely about the third child. Guess what? Lin Yangkai gave her son a big look. How can your brother have any secrets? Let me tell. Zhou Mikang had an expression on his face that I guessed right. I'm your own son, and I know your habits too well. If Xiaomi had no secrets, you would have said the third child has no secrets, but now you are saying your younger brother has no secrets. Lin Yangkai's face became unnatural. Thinking about it carefully, she really has this habit. She seems to be telling Zhou Zikang in this way in her subconscious mind that her younger brother is younger than you. If you want to look like an older brother, don't bother him. Asked. You can't stop your mouth even if you eat. I could see that my mother-in-law was uncomfortable. Yu Tao stuffed a steamed stuffed bun into Zhou Zikang's mouth, looked at Lin Yangkai with an embarrassed smile. Mom, you can keep your ears quiet for a while now. It's still Daisy who loves Mom. Lin Yangkai hurriedly helped Yu Tao also grab a small vegetable bun. Don't just serve him, you eat too. It's not that he doesn't have long hands, and he's not used to these problems. Zhou Zikang looked at Lin Yangkai begging for mercy. Mom, you often like to give me food and vegetables. I beg you, don't do this to me again. You really don't know what's good. Glancing at her son, Lin Yangkai deliberately put a big bun on his plate. Eat it. Otherwise, Mom, and you are welcome. Joe Mikang lay down on the table with a bitter face. Mom, do you love me or hate me? This is because you sincerely want to kill me. I am your own son, not your enemy. You. If others want me to pick it up, I won't. Hurry up and eat. Lin Yangkai hit her son on the head with her chopsticks. If your grandfather is here, he will definitely discipline you again. How can you look like a soldier if you don't sit or eat? It's hard to take a day off, and Mom won't let me relax. Hey, are you guys sincerely trying to make me feel like an outsider? Zhou Xiangping pouted and protested. Oh, if I had known, I wouldn't have had to rush over so early in the morning, haha, to see how much love you have between mother and child. This discriminatory treatment is too hurtful. Forget it, I'm going home. Go back. Lin Yangkai waved her hand at her without looking back. Don't come back today, stay with your old lady at home, take her out for a walk. You are getting old, you need to exercise more. Old man not getting sick is not only a blessing for the elderly, but also a blessing for you. I really doubt that I'm your own. Zhou Xiangping rolled her eyes and sat back. I just won't leave. Let's see if Mom can grab me by the arms and legs and throw me out. Xiaoxi is a little rascal. Lin Yangkai smiled and pointed to the glutinous 8 treasure porridge. Would you like a bowl for you? Of course. Zhou Xiangping smiled and put her arms around her mother's arm. As long as my mother gives it to me, I will eat it even if it is too much to eat. As she spoke, she gave Zhou Zikang a demonstrative glance. Your mouth. Lin Yangkai shook her head and filled a bowl full of porridge for her little daughter. If you dare to leave it, Mom will cut off your head and put it in. Mom. Zhou Xiangping stared at her mother pitifully. You are really a daughter-in-law and you plan to have a daughter-in-law. I have found out that I am becoming less and less important in your heart. If you're more obedient, the servings will get heavier and heavier. Following the eyes of the youngest daughter, Lin Yangkai looked at Yu Tao, who was still holding up her chopsticks, and Lin Yangkai reflexively looked at her bowl. Confused, Tao, what's wrong? Mom, my stomach suddenly swelled. Yu Tao patted her chest and smoothed it down. I don't know why, but I still feel good before eating. Mrs. Zhou hates waste the most, and she has a little, pointing to the porridge bowl in front of him in embarrassment. I'll have this for lunch, okay? Lin Yangkai looked at her face worriedly. Did you feel this way when you woke up? Yu Tao frowned and thought about it, then shook her head. No. Is that why you ate the vegetarian buns just now? The vegetarian buns are made with leeks and eggs. The leeks are fresh leeks that Lu Ma cut from her vegetable garden. The eggs are bought from a supply and marketing agency, and they are fresh. There must be no problem with the ingredients. Vomit. Lin Yangkai and Mrs. Zhou were still wondering what the problem was. Yu Tao covered her mouth and ran to the bathroom. Zhou Zikang hurriedly followed her in and patted her on the back. Tao, does your stomach hurt? No. As soon as the word no came out of her mouth, Yu Tao retched again. Finally, she vomited out all the food she had eaten, and then she stood up with a sigh of relief. I feel much more comfortable now. Why did you vomit like this all of a sudden? No, let's go to the hospital quickly. Illness can't be delayed. A minor illness can become a serious one. Zhou Zikang supported Yu Tao and walked out muttering. Lin Yangkai came out of the kitchen with a glass of freshly brewed honey water and handed it to Yu Tao. Drink this first, it will make you feel better. Xiaoxi, you go to warm up the car, Mom will accompany you to the hospital. Tao, how long has it been since you were young? Mrs. Zhou, who had been sitting there meditating, asked. Yu Tao was taken aback for a moment, then remembered that her little life had been delayed for half a month. She understood what Grandma meant, but is there really such a possibility? Just looking at her expression, she guessed that the old lady Zhou must have guessed it right. Now, Lin Yangkai was even more anxious, and hurriedly urged Zhou Zikang to heat up the car. He walked out with his calves. When Zhou's family was busy, Chu Xia, who was sitting in the car, was tangled up to death, and asked Jo Mikang over and over again whether the mother-in-law and the old woman had noticed something. In order to avoid being found out by her mother, Zhao Yulan, she changed her habit of reporting to Mr. Wan every morning and asked Jo Mikang to send her to the hospital. She decided to call her parents again when she got to the hospital, and said that the teacher had something to do with her, and she didn't have time to go home to report. Jo Mikang, who had been questioned by her all the way, had a big head, so he just glanced at her and kept silent. Chu Xia pursed her lips and snorted coldly, "Look, men are really like this. It's different between getting it and not getting it. I just got it, so ignore me. Hey, from now on, I probably won't be able to see it when I stand in front of you arrived." You. Unable to remain silent, Jo Mikang shifted her focus. "Xia, what you should be most worried about right now is whether Ant Song will notice." Ah, Chu Xia was taken aback for a moment, and spat at him. "I just care if my mother-in-law, grandma, and my mother can see it. I don't mind if other people see it." "Oh," Jo Mikang raised his eyebrows in doubt, "why? The more you are in front of the people you are close to, the more face you have. It doesn't matter to other people." Chu Xia held his head and continued to struggle. "I think grandma and mom must have noticed it, otherwise, they wouldn't stop them." "Stop, let us go to the cafeteria for breakfast. Something is wrong, oh, something is wrong." Jo Mikang sighed helplessly. "Lin Chuxia, do you regret being my real wife?" Someone said wearily, "No." "Then what is your attitude? If you marry me, you will be my legal wife and become a real couple. Isn't it normal?" The elders know. "Now, I will only be happy for us, and don't worry about us being separated anymore. If you keep messing around like this, see how I will deal with you at night." Bah, Chu Xia's face immediately turned red, and she sat up nervously. If you dare to, treat me like that again, I won't talk to you. I am your husband. My body hasn't recovered yet." "Where didn't it recover?" "Rogue. What is that location?" "Hate. Is there still such a part on the human body?" Chu Xia. Well, she was defeated. She was really playing a rogue. She felt ashamed. "Fool," Jo Mikang reached out and touched her head. "Don't worry, I will cherish you, and for the rest of my life. At this time, you are willing to be a real husband and wife with me." "Lin Chuxia, I am surprised and touched. But, have you ever thought that if you are pregnant, maybe I can't be by your side, it will be your regret, and it will also be my regret. It's really long-term thinking." Chu Xia stroked his forehead speechlessly. "Do you really think you are 100 hits? Daughter-in-law, can we be more reserved? Why, do you like hypocrisy?" "No." Jo Mikang shook his head quickly. "Well, he admits defeat. He doesn't want his little wife to really wear a mask to get along with him in the future. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor, please be kind." Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 340. The second watch arrives. "I am too diligent, and I praised myself. You think I'm very unreserved, don't you?" Chu Xia proudly hummed. "Didn't you force me to marry you? Then, you have to accept me completely, and tell you, it's too late to regret it now." Jo Mikang glanced at her with black lines. "I have never regretted it, as long as you don't regret it. Anyway, I think now that I can marry you and make a lot of money." Is it because I'm from the future that you're making big bucks?" Chu Xia wanted to ask this question, but she didn't say it in the end. Some jokes can be made, and some, she thinks she hasn't gotten to know him that well. She didn't speak, neither did Jo Mikang. The two of them went to the hospital in silence all the way. "I'm here, I'm getting off the car, please drive slowly." Chu Xia desperately went to pull the car door. Jo Mikang just pulled it, stopped her. "Are you angry?" "Ah," Chu Xia stared at Jo Mikang with wide eyes. "Why are you angry? Why are you angry?" Are you pretending to be with me now? Jo Mikang pushed her down on the seat. Don't lie, just speak your mind truthfully. You forced me to say this. Chu Xia raised his brows. Actually, I don't understand how I feel. When you saw me, you didn't know that I came from the future, and you didn't know that I could be here. Help you in this war. However, when you said that you felt that you had made a lot of money, I felt uncomfortable, and felt that you didn't fancy me. Instead, I took a fancy to my added value. Of course, I know my idea is wrong. However, I can't control myself. I'm just unhappy in my heart, and even, don't want to see you. Very good. Jo Mikang smiled at her encouragingly. I am very happy that you are willing to speak out your thoughts truthfully, but your thoughts have wronged me. From your description, we can know that the thinking of people in the future is very different from that of the present. However, you accepted me. This shows that my thinking is not outdated or antique, and at the same time, it also has some excellent qualities of future people. For example, the views on love and marriage. What kind of love and marriage I want, I told you before. So, I'm very glad that I told you before that, and I won't let you think that I said that on purpose to cater to you. This shortens the distance for you to fall in love with me. What I mean by earning a lot of money is specifically referring to this. Of course, your understanding of the future has helped me. It is immeasurable, but this. Jo Mikang sighed. You can only be an unsung hero. Do you feel wronged in your heart? No. 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 Chu Xia waved her hands again and again. I don't want such credit. If I didn't see that you were good to me, I was afraid that you would die on the battlefield. I wouldn't tell you about it. Although this is not ancient times, many people may not be able to accept it. Moreover, if everyone knows that I am from the future, will I still have a way to live? It is estimated that some departments will arrest me immediately and study me like a guinea pig. What if they study me and slice me up? He shivered while talking. It's too scary. That's equivalent to Ling Chi. Jo Mikang. The daughter-in-law from the future really has a different brain from everyone else, and I don't know how she thought of being sliced, with him around. Who has the guts? Seeing Jo Mikang's self-confidence, Chu Xia poured cold water on him. It's really known, you can't stop it, and your family can't stop it either. Some people are driven by power and interests, and everything is unstoppable. It can be done. Jo Mikang poked her forehead angrily. This kind of possibility doesn't exist, it's mediocre. Aren't I analyzing and analyzing? What if you slipped up because of national interests? Chu Xia glanced at him anxiously. It's not that I don't believe you, but I don't have confidence in this era. Jo Mikang sighed softly. It's useless to promise you more. Let's go and see. Luo Xiaoxian is here. Get out of the car. Remember to eat in the cafeteria first. Okay. Chu Xia waved his hand at him, wanting to open the door to get out of the car, but he pulled it over and pressed a deep kiss on her lips. She pushed him away anxiously, her face flushed red, and she couldn't help it. Staring at him bitterly, if Xiaoxian sees it, I won't have to live, you big rascal. We are husband and wife. He leaned forward and helped her open the car door. If you are not feeling well, do less activity. I hate it. She glared at him again angrily, and quickly jumped out of the car. Seeing her brisk running away, he let out a long sigh of relief, and quickly turned the car around to leave. Fortunately, the medicine should have an effect. Judging by the speed of her running, he can finally feel relieved. The medicine was prepared by my mother before she got married, saying that it was good for the girl's physical recovery. At that time, he still hated it, but in order not to let his mother nagging, he took it. Who would have thought that the relationship between the two developed so quickly, or that he underestimated the loyalty in the little girl's bones? She hadn't fully fallen in love with him, he could see it, but, in order to reassure him, in order to let him come back with concern, even though she was afraid in her heart, even if she still couldn't accept it, she still used force to bring the relationship between the two to this point. Is it really you? Why did you come here so early? Looking at Chusia, who was running towards her, Luo Xiaoxian looked surprised. It looks similar from a distance. I thought I was wrong. Chusia explained with some guilty conscience, Zhou Mikang wants to go to the meeting earlier, and it's not convenient for me to take a car, so I came here earlier. Are you going to buy breakfast? Yes, they all work night shifts. Luo Xiaoxian sized her up. You haven't had breakfast yet, have you? That's right. Chusia took a few lunch boxes from her. I'll go to cook with you. Hey. Luo Xiaoxian looked her up and down. Tell me the truth, did you have a conflict with your in-laws? Where did you think? Chusia shook his head amusedly. I just came a little early. Why did you think about that? You are just newly married, and Captain Zhou likes you so much. Why would you not eat at home and go out to eat in the cafeteria? Luo Xiaoxian stroked her forehead in wonder. You behaved so well when something happened to Zhou's family a while ago. Your mother-in-law and the others shouldn't trouble with you, I said. She slapped her forehead fiercely. It's not your mother-in-law who treats you too well, which caused your sister-in-law and sister-in-law to be unhappy, and they will join forces to deal with you. You can write novels now, this imagination. Chusia clicked his tongue twice and quickened his pace. It's useless not to chat with you. The more you talk, the more boundless it will be. I'm guilty. There must be something hidden from me. Luo Xiaoxian hurried to catch up. Lin Chuxia, if you were guilty, you would hide like this. I have discovered your problem a long time ago, so hurry up and say, what's the matter, son? If you treat me as a friend, don't lie to me. Having been together for more than a year, Chusia also knows Luo Xiaoxian's stubborn temper. If she doesn't have an explanation, she will definitely not let it go. And she is indeed like Luo Xiaoxian said, there are some things that cannot be explained by a guilty conscience. I just like to go around and not talk about it, but, in the past, she was always by her parents' side, and she didn't ask Luo Xiaoxian if she didn't talk about it. If she didn't tell her this time, she might go to her parents to complain. After weighing it, Chusia decided to use another thing to reassure his good friend, and said, I really didn't lie to you. I didn't tell you because this matter is still in the confidential stage, but, looking at you, if I don't said, you probably don't have the heart to go to work. If you make a mistake and get scolded by Dean Su, you will definitely blame me even more. So, let me tell you, but you have to promise me to keep it secret. No one can say it, including Lu Meijun. It's not that I don't trust her, it's because I don't want to put pressure on her to keep it secret. Luo Xiaoxian looked at Chusia carefully for a while, and saw that she was serious and her eyes were not dodging, so she believed her. Forget it, since it is still in the secrecy stage, I won't make things difficult for you. You and the leader are husband and wife. He should tell you that I am your friend, not his friend. If I get punished because of me, I will regret it for the rest of my life. However, I trust you so much. If you find out that you are lying to me, you will not be my friend in the future. Don't worry, I won't lie to you. People in this era have an instinctive fear of secrecy regulations. When Chusia said it, he expected that Luo Xiaoxian would not ask too many questions. However, since she opened her mouth, she intended to tell her about it. Zhao Qiliang will also leave with the team, and she doesn't know when she will come back after leaving. She doesn't want her cousin to leave with regrets, and she doesn't want Luo Xiaoxian to regret it in the future. When she told Luo Xiaoxian in a low voice that Master A would be on a mission for a long time, and that his life might be in danger, the other party was immediately stunned, staring at her blankly, and didn't come back to his senses for a long time. After a while, Luo Xiaoxian stuffed the lunchbox into Chusia's hand. I'm sorry for the breakfast, I'm going to ask the dean for leave. Don't worry, I know what to say, and I will never make a mistake. Okay, Chusia happily replied. In the end, when she called her breakfast back, she ran into a long-lost acquaintance at the door of the dormitory. Well, it could only be regarded as an acquaintance. Lin Chuxia, you're finally back. Zhong Hongying hurried up to greet her, and forcibly took some of the lunch boxes in her hand. How could they bully you like this and let you eat so much by yourself? You want something from me? Knowing that she must go to the Three Treasures Hall for nothing, Chu Xia didn't bother to chat with her, so she went straight to the point and asked her why she came. I heard that you married a team leader, is it true? Zhong Hongying stared at her eagerly and asked expectantly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 341. As soon as it arrives. Chu Xia. Seeing Chu Xia staring at herself with a cold face and not speaking, Zhong Hongying also realized that her question was a bit impolite, so she quickly smiled flatteringly. I don't want to ask about your sex, I just don't want to embarrass you. Just to be sure. You know I'm in trouble and you come to me. Chu Xia looked at her indifferently. Although we are fellow villagers, you don't need me to tell you how your relationship is, you know it, right? Zhong Hongying smiled bitterly. I know, because of the matter between me and Luo Hunky, you will think that I am an immoral woman. If it is not a last resort, I will not come to you. Chu Xia interrupted her. I don't have prejudice, I just don't like your way of dealing with people. He glanced at the time. I have to go to work soon, and I haven't had breakfast yet. Can we find a quiet place and talk a few words? Zhong Hongying looked at Chu Xia pleadingly. You also know that I am a person who cares about face. If it wasn't really desperate, how could I make up my mind to come to you? To tell you the truth, when I came here, I saw Xiaoxian coming out of the dormitory. I was so scared that I turned around and ran, but I ran into a tree. Fortunately, she didn't find me, otherwise, I don't know what will happen. Woolen cloth. You also know her temper. Before I came, I thought that I might meet her, but I still came. Chu Xia, just based on this, you can imagine what kind of situation I am in now, right? Come to the dormitory with me, they will be late after get off work, Chu Xia said and took the lead upstairs. She really didn't like Zhong Hongying, but she was a fellow villager anyway. And she was also a little curious about what kind of trouble the other party had encountered. All right. She is a gossip. After the two entered the dormitory and sat down, Zhong Hongying looked at the furnishings of the dormitory. Enviously said, your accommodation conditions are really good. We share a dormitory with 12 people. When we enter the room, it is full of sweaty smell. You guys have to train every day, it's not the same thing. Chu Xia poured her a glass of water. Drink some water. Zhong Hongying stood up a little flattered. Thank you. Chu Xia gave her a shallow smile. You're welcome, we are fellow villagers after all, and you haven't harmed me. There's no need to act like an enemy. Chu Xia, I know that I'm a bit competitive and I value interests a bit more, but I'm just trying to get the life I want, and I will never harm you just because I want to live a good life. People really give a pull and climb up quickly. Chu Xia stared at her speechlessly. What on earth are you going to tell me? If you keep procrastinating, you won't have time to say it. Can you allow me to elaborate on this matter? Zhong Hongying looked at Chu Xia anxiously. Tell me in detail, so you can understand why I came to you, okay? Chu Xia glanced at the time. It's half an hour before the shift change time, I can only give you 20 minutes. Tell me, I'll listen while having breakfast. Okay, Zhong Hongying responded with joy in her eyes, and began to tell. Chu Xia, you are more blessed than I am. Uncle Baohe and Aunt Yulan treat you with heartache. I never thought of getting anything from you. But my mother is different, she wants to live a good life, wants to be better than others, but she doesn't have that ability, so she always wants to exchange it with a daughter, In order not to let her treat me as a cash cow, I can only find a way. After a pause, seeing that Chusia didn't look unhappy, she continued, I know, the person I'm most sorry for is Lugo Hunky. If I hadn't come to serve in the army, I would have married Lugo Hunky, even if he was a little silly, but at least he was healthy and sound. You may not know that my mother has always planned to marry me to my aunt Leland, the party secretary of that village. Leland is already 34, and he is missing a finger. My mother is interested in his status as an official, and he promised my mother that if I marry, he will provide for my parents. My mother discussed this matter with my aunt behind my back. Fortunately, my aunt's younger sister is very close to me, so she quietly told me about it. If I don't quickly find a good marriage for myself, even if I don't marry Leland after my mother accepts the gift money, my reputation will be ruined. Who will marry me from a good family? If the person I'm looking for is too bad, my mother will definitely not let her go, and maybe they can make trouble and make life difficult for them. It happened that Lugo Hunky wanted to befriend me, and he had the opportunity to be a soldier. I have always admired soldiers, so I agreed to him. You know what kind of temper he has. He's just one-sided. When I write letters, I'm always looking forward to being a soldier and going back to my hometown to marry me. If what I'm looking for is such a worthless man, why force him to become a soldier? So, I became more and more indifferent to him, and I didn't want to reply to his letters. Anyway, with him hanging around, my mother can't make any more ideas about me. Who would have thought that I would really come to serve as a soldier? You can never imagine how excited I was when I received the notice to enlist in the army. I cannot marry a man I don't love, I cannot be forced to be a cash cow, and I can live the life I want with my own efforts. This is my dream. All the things I thought about, I didn't expect it to come true so easily. What I didn't expect was that not long after I came to the army, I met a man who liked each other. He liked my hard work, my appearance, and I liked his character and his way of doing things. After my relationship with him was made public, the female soldiers in the company scolded me for being shameless behind my back. On the surface, I pretended not to care, but in my heart, I felt terribly uncomfortable. I didn't want to be with him because he was the platoon leader, nor did I deliberately seduce him. We were training on the same playground, and he noticed me first and approached me proactively. We decided to be together after we got to know each other slowly. He is not young and is eager to get married. Although I have no idea in my heart, I am afraid that I will miss this opportunity. I will never find such a suitable one in the future. Man. Moreover, as long as I marry him, even if I can't stay in the army, after demobilization, I don't have to worry about my mother thinking of me again. We had already obtained our marriage certificate last month, and the wedding date was set to be next Tuesday, but just a few days ago, he suddenly told me that he was going on a mission with an uncertain return date, life and death, and wanted to cancel the engagement with me. Said that he can ask the leader for help, not to leave a record of my marriage in the file, and it will not affect my future marriage. However, I finally found someone I like, and I have already written a letter about my marriage to my family. As far as my mother's mouth is concerned, everyone in the world must know about it. If the marriage is cancelled suddenly, what face do I have to go back to my hometown in the future? And those female soldiers in the company, how can they laugh at me? This is simply driving me to a dead end. In early summer, from the letter my mother wrote to me, I guessed that you should marry Captain Joe. Please help me to discuss with Head Joe, can Luli and Bayo get married before leaving? I'm not trying to hold him back, I just ask him to leave after the wedding with me. Anyway, some people should stay in the regiment, right? After my mother and my father and relatives in the family come to attend the wedding, he can leave whenever he wants, and I can guarantee that no matter what happens to him in the future, I will follow him. Chusia, if I hadn't been forced to do so, I would be ashamed to come to you, and I know, you must think I'm vain, but I can't help it, I just have such a temper. If the wedding is cancelled like this, I will not be able to go home, and I will have no face to treat the army. I really will die. Zhong Hongying finished everything in terms of cause and effect. Chu Xia also finished breakfast, wiped her mouth with a handkerchief, and sighed softly, a person like you are tired all by yourself. Of course, I can't say that I completely believe what you said, nor can I say that I don't believe it. I have heard about the matter between you and Lian Changlu before, and the version is indeed different from what you said. But one thing I can tell you with certainty is that I can't help in this matter. Yes, I am married to Zhou Mikang, but I can't interfere in his business affairs just because I am his wife. Besides, this mission also includes him. Compared with me, what else can't you survive? You also know that when we got married, it happened to be the time when something happened to the Zhou family. Then, I believe you know how my family is spreading me from your mother's letter. Originally, I planned to let Zhou Mikang go back to my hometown with me, so as to stop the rumors. But now it seems that the day when he and I will go back to my hometown together is in the foreseeable future. Then, during the period when he doesn't come back, one can imagine what kind of rumors my family will have. My father and mother are stubborn. When I was unable to keep them here, they were determined not to owe my in-laws. You are right, my parents really took me seriously and never thought about it. Get something from me. However, one can imagine what kind of pressure they will face when they go back. Even so, I did not ask Zhou Mikang to go back to my hometown with me first. Zhong Hongying, do you think your request will be valid? Chu Xia, as I said, I don't have your belly and I have a heart, please help me, otherwise, I will really end up on the road. Zhong Hongying looked downcast. I thought about it when I came here, if you can't help me here, probably, I have to threaten death, or maybe I really die. I used to think you were strong when I was in the village, but now I see that I was really wrong. Chu Xia stood up. Zhong Hongying, if you don't cherish your own life, others can't help you cherish it, let me help you. It's time for you, I'm going to work. Zhong Hongying looked up with a tearful face pitifully, I just want to marry him, I don't ask for anything else, it's just delaying his work for more than 10 days, can you really tell me? First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 342. The second watch arrives. If it wasn't for the reason why you explained the cause and effect to me so clearly, and because you didn't harm me, I wouldn't use myself as an example to explain it to you. Since you can't listen, I can't help it. Chu Xia spread her hands, I'm sorry, I have to go to work, please leave. Excuse me. Zhong Hongying smiled sadly, got up and walked out, her footsteps were a little vain, and her back was indescribably desolate. Etc. Zhong Hongying turned around in surprise, Chu Xia, you changed your mind, didn't you? If you really love Company Commander Lu, tell him your true thoughts. After a pause, Chu Xia sighed, let him leave with concern, and then come back with concern. Without even thinking about it, Zhong Hongying shook her head, if he knew that my family was like that, probably he wouldn't dare to marry me. Moreover, he may have misunderstood that I deliberately approached him and stayed with him in order not to marry Li Lin. I don't want to and can't take this risk. This is a woman who is too vain, does she really know what true love is? Chu Xia didn't bother to talk to her anymore, took the lock and went out. Zhong Hongying, who had been waiting for Chu Xia to speak, understood that this was an order to evict the guest, and a deep disappointment flashed in her eyes. She turned around and left with heavy steps. She never dreamed that one day, Lin Chuxia would live a better life than her. Ever since she was a child, she has been praised by everyone, but Lin Chuxia is just the opposite. The two are completely representatives of two extremes. Especially before Lin Chuxia and Luo Hunky got engaged, Luo Hunky deliberately found her. Tell her personally that he likes her, as long as she says a word. Even if he broke ties with his family, he was determined not to get engaged to Lin Chuxia, and she became more confident. However, at that time, she didn't like Ludo Hunky. Apart from being taller and stronger, Ludo Hunky really had no other skills. The only thing better than others was that his father was the village party secretary. But he is as stubborn as a donkey, marrying such a man. It is conceivable what kind of life she will live in her life. It is not the life she wants to live, so she refused without thinking. However, she used a tactful method. She told him that if he could serve as a soldier, she could consider getting along with him. It can be regarded as leaving a way out for myself. Did not expect. It was really the right way to go. Later, knowing that her mother wanted to marry the Lee family behind her back, she immediately found Ludo Hunky and proposed. As long as he can be a soldier, she will be nice to him. That's because she knew that the Ludo family was absolutely capable of sending Ludo Hunky to the army. She has a natural admiration for soldiers, as long as she can become a soldier. Anything she doesn't like can be ignored. At that time, she looked down on Lin Chuxia very much. Although she looked very pleasing, who would want to marry such a woman who can't do anything and go home as a burden? It wasn't until Xue Qiuheng fell in love with Lin Chuxia, and Xue Ligong used tricks to force Lin Chuxia to marry her son, that she realized that ordinary people might not care about such a woman as a daughter-in-law, but it is still rare for a family with a good family background. Later, Lin Chuxia was selected as a medical soldier, but she was not selected. She could only lament that God was unfair. The culture class was indeed her weakness, and she could only hope that she would be selected as a normal soldier later. Not long after Lin Chuxia joined the army, rumors spread in the village that she was attracted by a regiment leader. She pretended to be nothing on the surface, but her heart was shocked. Why didn't she have such good luck? Even if it is a half-grown old man, she is willing. Then, her heart for Ludo Hunky suddenly faded to the limit. She only wanted to be a soldier desperately. Then, she could also marry an officer, not the regiment leader, but also the platoon leader. In the end, she really got her wish. On the first day of recruit training, Lu Lianbao took a fancy to her. 7 years older than her is nothing, she can accept it even at 17. Therefore, the marriage was quickly settled. She also quickly wrote a letter to her family. Her mother's full of pride when she replied to the letter greatly satisfied her vanity. I feel that no matter what time it is, she is better than Lin Chuxia. But then, she was deeply shocked. People from the village came to attend the wedding in City A, and the garrison in City A was only their base, and the regiment leader who had the accident was only Zhou Mikang. No matter what, she never imagined that Lin Chuxia married the god of the army whom everyone adores. After enlisting in the army, she heard a lot about Zhou Mikang, and she admired him very much. However, after learning that Chu Xia married him, she hoped from the bottom of her heart that it would be best for him to spend time in prison from now on. Everything didn't go as she wished, but within a month, Head Zhou was reinstated, and it was said that Head Zhou could be promoted again soon. Regardless of whether the Zhou family will be brought down again in the future, anyway, Lin Chuxia has had great luck in front of her, and she is jealous and envious, but fortunately, she already has a man she likes, so she will soon let this matter go. The son threw it away and concentrated on waiting to be a bride. As a result, something like this happened again. As she herself said, asking Lin Chuxia for help, she really struggled for a long time. The person she had always looked down upon became the person she wanted to curry favor with. She was really very sad. However, after weighing the pros and cons, she still came. Originally, she thought that Lin Chuxia, who was nothing, would immediately agree to it if she begged her, but she was completely wrong in her prediction. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Lin Chuxia and the Lin Chuxia she knew were not alone at all. In my impression, Lin Chuxia was not particularly aggressive with others. But now, what is she going to do? It's not that she never thought about asking Lin Chuxia for help, but she could feel from her attitude that it would be very difficult for her to change her mind. Moreover, she suspected that Lin Chuxia would not dare to mention this matter in front of Captain Zhou. It was only because of this that she intentionally put on such an attitude. If she continued to humble herself in front of her, she would only completely lose her dignity. That was absolutely unacceptable to her. Anyway, it's almost a dead end, why not? Zhou Hongying quickly quickened her pace. Zhao Qiliang was very depressed during this period. No matter how much he begged, Luo Xiaoxian just didn't forgive him. He thought that Chu Xia would help him when he came back, but depending on the situation, he was also angry with him. Thinking about it, the relationship between Chu Xia and Xiaoxian is many times better than the relationship with Qian, and Qian has done so many things that are sorry for Chu Xia should be angry with herself. But the problem is, there are 3 days before I have to go on a mission, and I don't know when I can come back after I leave. If something happens to him, Xiaoxian will regret it to death? No, he has to try his best one last time, even if it is to make her not regret it in the future, he has to try again. He got up quickly and went to ask the platoon leader for leave. Lu Lianbao was also worrying about his affairs with Zhou Hongying recently, so when he heard Zhao Qiliang's reason for asking for leave, he immediately agreed. And told him, he must explain to his girlfriend well, and let the other party forgive him for whatever he said. Platoon leader. Zhao Qiliang knew that the platoon leader was scheduled to get married next week, and knew that the platoon leader must be upset, so he wanted to persuade him, but when the words came to his lips, he felt that no matter how he tried to persuade him, it was a bit empty. Just stuck there not knowing what to say. Lu Lianbao smiled and waved at him. Okay, we soldiers should put the country first and then the family. I'm fine, let's go. Yes, Zhao Qiliang now wished he could reach 401 in one step. When he got out of the door, he was just about to run when he saw someone he had been thinking about day and night rushing towards him like a cannonball. Dong punched Zhao Qiliang's chest, and Luo Xiaoxian grinned at him. Xiaoxian, are you not angry with me? Happiness came so suddenly that Zhao Qiliang immediately stammered. I wasn't angry with you at first, but I wanted you to have a long memory. Luo Xiaoxian suppressed her smile. Of course I like kind people, but I hope that your kindness is kind to those who are worthy of being kind, otherwise, in the end, you will only be kind. It will be cheaper for others to hurt themselves. Fool. Zhao Qiliang rubbed her head lightly as he was wearing a military uniform and couldn't make too intimate gestures. I'm not as stupid as you think. Luo Xiaoxian frowned. Huh. Okay, I'm stupid, I'm too stupid. Zhao Qiliang hurriedly begged for mercy. We really have a good understanding. I just asked for leave with the platoon leader, and I plan to find you. As far as this is concerned, the two of us are quite destined. If I came later, we would have missed it. Luo Xiaoxian's face suddenly became serious. Why did I come here in such a hurry? You should I know, Zhao Qiliang, I will trust you in this life. I only have one request for you. You have arms and legs when you leave, and you also have arms and legs when you come back. I will try my best. Seeing that someone turned his back again, Zhao Qiliang hurriedly explained, if I'm really sure, I'm going to lie to you, right? Okay, then my requirements will be lowered. When I go out, I will hang my breath, and when I come back, I will also hang my breath. Zhao Qiliang. Is there such a request? What does it mean to hold your breath? Is that a description of someone who is about to die? What's your expression? Luo Xiaoxian stared at him. If you can't even agree to this request, you are going too far. No, Zhao Qiliang recounted his understanding of the words with some entanglement, and laughed jokingly. I was thinking, is it possible that I have to hang on to my own breath before leaving? I hate it, Luo Xiaoxian punched him on the chest. You know I don't mean that, you're just making fun of me and I'm uneducated. Haha. Hey hey. On the same day, Rest and comrades in the same platoon as Zhao Liang happened to pass by. They made a face at Zhao Liang, and turned around while walking, and Zhao Liang straightened up. This is my daughter-in-law who has never been married. Luo Xiaoxian echoed, yes, I am his unmarried daughter-in-law. I have never seen such a generous person. The two comrades staggered and quickly fled away. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 343. As soon as the update arrived, the wired network was broken, so I came up. Hey, I didn't code out the tossing words. Let's make it up tomorrow, and the fourth update tomorrow. Although the misunderstanding has been cleared up, thinking that Zhao Liang will leave soon, Luo Xiaoxian can't cheer up. The parting came too suddenly, and she wasn't prepared for it at all. If she knew this, why did she have to fight with him for so long? This farewell, I don't know when I will see you again, or rather, I don't know if I can see you again. Hey, she forced herself to stop thinking about it. I've already asked for leave, otherwise, let's go out for a walk, she suggested expectantly. Okay, Zhao Liang readily agreed, and finally cleared up the misunderstanding. Of course he wanted to spend more time with his fiancée. During this time, he was going to be suffocated. If he knew at that time that Zhao Qian's mother and daughter had stayed in early summer like that, and that they deliberately slapped the Zhou family and Zhao family in the face in front of the enemy in order to climb high, he would never have cared about them. At the beginning, he still had some opinions on Luo Xiaoxian's actions. At least they were relatives. Even if the other party had a bad personality, he couldn't turn a blind eye to them in this unfamiliar land. However, after finding out the truth later, he really regretted it to death, wanted to ask her to explain, but she didn't give him a chance at all. As a result, the relationship between the two became more and more rigid. He even once thought that the relationship between the two of them might end here. Fortunately, when he walked to a secluded corner, he hugged her and looked around in horror. Luo Xiaoxian pushed him hard, wearing a military uniform. It's troublesome for people to see. Zhao Liang hugged her tightly. Buried her head in the hollow of her neck, she whispered, just let me hold you for a while. Xiaoxian, I'm sorry, it's all my fault for making you angry for so long, and I'm sorry for Chu Xia, my sister-in-law, my uncle, my grandmother. Okay. Luo Xiaoxian interrupted him with a smile, this matter is over, so don't hold a criticism meeting for yourself. You don't know the truth, so you can't blame you. After all, you are relatives. If you leave me, we'll do the same. Actually, I don't really blame you, I just take this opportunity to let you think about it, lest we get married in the future, and there will be some unnecessary conflicts because of such a person. I know. Even if you are a relative, you can't tolerate it unprincipled. Some people, you treat him as a relative. But she will use your kindness to treat you as a fool. I understand. Luo Xiaoxian let out a surprised hey and chuckled, so you understand everything. Zhao Liang smiled lightly, that is. Otherwise, why would you fall in love with me? Luo Xiaoxian slapped him so angrily, don't be smug. Who has a crush on you? Then why did you write to me? Zhao Liang smiled wickedly. You have a good vision. I will definitely be a good husband. Don't worry. Well, Luo Xiaoxian nodded solemnly, I believe that you will be a good husband, and I also believe in my own vision, so no matter what kind of difficulties you encounter, you must remember that I am waiting for you. The person you want to protect is waiting for you. I know. Zhao Liang breathed a long sigh of relief, and finally let go of her. What do you want to eat? Today I will take you to eat everything you want. He patted his pocket, I will bring this month's allowance with me. Okay, I'm going to eat for you today. Luo Xiaoxian glanced at the time. After lunch, let's go to Phoenix Park, and then, come back to see my brother, and you can send me back, okay? Okay, Zhao Liang hesitated, but said anyway, your brother is injured. Ah, Luo Xiaoxian grabbed Zhao Liang's sleeve anxiously, where is the injury? Is it serious? Hey, Zhao Liang sighed heavily. It is stipulated in the regiment that if there is only one boy in the family, they must stay at the base temporarily. Since your brother broke up with Zhong Hongying, it seems like a different person. He is very hardworking and motivated. So he submitted the application. In the end, the platoon leader refuted it, saying that the leader had rigidly stipulated that if there was only one boy in the family, he had to stay. The platoon leader was Zhong Hongying's fiancé, and your brother couldn't bear to beg him, so he trained himself desperately. Accidentally, he twisted his ankle. As for him, he held back and continued to participate in the evening training. As a result, after the training, his ankle was almost as thick as his thigh. The doctor said that whether he can continue training in the future depends on the degree of recovery, but this time, it is impossible for him to go on a mission. Why did you say it now? Luo Xiaoxian glared at him angrily, turned around and walked back. Wait, Zhao Liang pulled her back. It's not like you don't know your brother's temper. He didn't want you to see him now, and he told me many times. If I really dare to tell you, from now on he don't know me. Hey, Luo Xiaoxian frowned and sighed, a little helpless. Her brother's stubborn temper is really different from others. If you fight with him, he can really do unexpected things. Who takes care of him? Nurse. What else is there to hide from me? Realizing that Zhao Liang hesitated to speak, Luo Xiaoxian glared at him. Can you finish speaking quickly, and be so hesitant? Be careful that I will turn against you. I'm not completely sure about this, but I think I'm not mistaken. I think your brother seems to be very interested in the little nurse who takes care of him. That little nurse is from your medical team. Her name is Zhang Erniu. She looks quite honest and honest. If it's convenient for you, please help your brother. Seeing him babbling like that, I feel anxious for him. Luo Xiaoxian had a look of disbelief. You didn't make a mistake. No, Zhao Liang shook his head vigorously. I won't talk about such things casually. No, what I mean is, are you right? Zhang Erniu is in the obstetrics and gynecology department. Why did she go to the orthopedics department? Zhao Liang shook his head. Then I don't know. Anyway, she said she knows you and stayed in the same dormitory with you. From the feeling, she is quite familiar with you and Chu Xia. If it's really Zhang Erniu, we are quite familiar. After thinking about it, Luo Xiaoxian had an idea. I'll go to Zhang Erniu first to find out if she is taking care of my brother. If so, I really don't have to worry about it. She is a very good girl. She will definitely not be as calculating as Zhong Hongying. However, if she doesn't like my brother, I won't mess around with her. If I really agree with her straightforward personality, even if she doesn't want to, I can force myself to agree. Speaking of which, if my brother really likes her, he's quite discerning. She is definitely a kind and good girl, and Zhong Hongying is definitely two extremes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 344. This is a combination of two chapters. The electricity was off for a whole morning and one noon today. Is there anyone more miserable than me? Continue to code. Whether it is Zhong Hongying or Zhang Erniu, Zhao Liang is not familiar with them, so it is not convenient to express his opinion, so he patted Luo Xiaoxian comfortingly. Don't worry, your brother is different now, whether you stay in the army or expire. Retiring from the army will not be bad. Cut. Luo Xiaoxian gave him a displeased look. Can you stop telling me this kind of comforting Mandarin? Is this what I want to listen to? You are not in vain. You. Zhao Qiliang smiled wryly. Why don't you tell me what to say? I can't handle emotional matters well, so how can I mix opinions with others? I don't want you to get mixed up. Luo Xiaoxian looked at him seriously. I just hope that when you talk to me, you can be as casual as a family member. Look at me, if you are happy, you are happy, if you are not happy, you are not happy. What's the matter? Thoughts and statements will tell you directly, and will never beat around the bush. Why can't you do this? Zhao Qiliang thought about it for a while, and looked at Luo Xiaoxian seriously. I also want to say something. I really think your brother is different from before. Okay, it's all my fault. Let's go quickly. I won't talk to you anymore, Luo Xiaoxian said while speeding up her pace. Xiaoxian. After a pause, Zhao Qiliang continued, do you still like me? Ah, Luo Xiaoxian tilted her head and looked at him. What are you thinking? Think about when we first got together, think about when you wrote to me. Is your mood still the same as that time? Zhao Qiliang sighed. Men are taller than women. This is the usual pattern that everyone accepts, now. The two of us are just the opposite. Even if you don't care, you will feel uncomfortable when someone says something, and then when you get along with me, you will become more angry unconsciously, isn't that right? Luo Xiaoxian, do you have a boyfriend? Yes, I have. What are you doing? A soldier. What title? Ordinary soldiers, but squad leaders. Ah. What's so surprising? You have such good conditions. Well, I'm vulgar. This conversation came to Luo Xiaoxian's mind in an instant. After thinking about it, it seemed that after chatting with the Deputy Dean Assistant Yu Xiaofan, her attitude towards Zhao Qiliang was obviously different. Has her feeling for him changed? It seems not. In the past, she always looked up at him. As long as she was with him, her heart would be sweet as hell. Now, although she no longer looked up at him. However, she felt that he was as close as family. She never thought about being separated from him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have gotten the news from Chu Xia. He ran over to find him. Could it be that the relationship between them has changed from love to family? She looked at Zhao Qiliang in confusion. There was no sound for a long time. Fool. Zhao Qiliang rubbed her head. If you really don't have feelings for me anymore, you don't have to feel guilty. You can't force your feelings. Your love for me before was just a dream of your teenage years. Now, see, it's normal to feel differently when you mature in the past. That's not the case. Luo Xiaoxian shook her head. I was thinking about the reasons for these changes just now. Probably, we have already passed the stage of passionate love, and have sublimated into relatives. Zhao Qiliang, I never thought of being separated from you. You must marry me in this life. If you dare to say nothing, I will die for you. You. Zhao Qiliang looked at her amusedly. Is it because you are afraid that I will not come back, so you deliberately put a curse on me? Of course not. Luo Xiaoxian gave him a white look. I'm too lazy to argue with you, so let's go. It's not that she's too lazy to argue with herself, but she doesn't know what's going on, right? Zhao Qiliang shook his head amusedly, took a few steps to catch up with her, and smiled lightly. Don't worry, I'm very dedicated. You mean I'm not specific? Luo Xiaoxian glared at him with pouty lips. When did I not specific? You see, you're thinking too much. I'm afraid you don't have confidence, so I'll give you reassurance. Luo Xiaoxian stared at him speechlessly, but her heart was a little moved. He was telling her in a disguised form that even if her current social status was higher than his, he would not belittle herself, let alone leave because of it. He listened to her decision. She wrote to him about chasing him back. After her mother found out, she was worried that she would be shorter than him for the rest of her life, so she had to live carefully with her. To be honest, she also had such worries. But it turns out they were all wrong. At the very beginning, he was indifferent to her. But ever since he got engaged, he has really treated her wholeheartedly, following her in everything, and he didn't have the slightest feeling of not paying attention to her because she was chasing after her. On the contrary, her attitude towards him became more and more casual. Or, it has something to do with her good luck and climbing too fast. In fact, after thinking about it, what does she have? In addition to better opportunities, what else? In case the dean doesn't need her as an assistant one day, she is not even as good as an ordinary nurse. She has practiced with the teacher anyway. What about her? Her current job is more like a nanny. An administrative nanny sounds better, but in essence, she is still a nanny. Xiaoxian, seeing Luo Xiaoxian who suddenly appeared in front of her, Zhang Ernia was surprised. Why are you here? What do you think? Luo Xiaoxian blinked at her. I miss you, can't I? Look at my stupid brain. Zhang Ernia patted her forehead hard. Isn't it normal for you to come to see your brother when he is hospitalized? By the way, have you visited your brother? Not yet, he won't let me know, so I'll ask you first. There were others in the nurses' lounge, and it was inconvenient to ask some questions, so Luo Xiaoxian winked at Zhang Ernia, turned and walked out. Zhang Ernia was taken aback for a moment, and hurriedly followed her out. Aren't you in the obstetrics and gynecology department? Why did you come to the orthopedics department? Luo Xiaoxian asked suspiciously. Something happened to Teacher Wang's family. I can't come to work for the time being, and I still want to learn from her. She introduced me to study with Teacher Yu first. Teacher Yu is a friend of Teacher Wang. Been in administration for so long. Luo Xiaoxian immediately understood that many of the same doctors were fighting fiercely. If Zhang Ernia wanted to follow Wang Chunli, she would not be able to transfer to another gynecologist. The teacher said, "It's good for me to learn more." Zhang Ernia smiled embarrassedly. I'm too stupid, and other teachers don't want me, so the teacher doesn't dislike me. Stupid bird flies first, with your hard work. One day you will become the nurse that everyone is vying for. Luo Xiaoxian turned the topic to Luo Hunky. How is my brother these days? I don't seem to be in a good mood. He wants to go on a mission with the army, but considering his current situation, it's impossible. The day before yesterday, he secretly went to the ground behind Teacher Yu's back, and was severely criticized by Teacher Yu. Luo Xiaoxian's face became serious. Isn't my brother just twisting his ankle? Listen to what you said. Why do I feel like a twist? He twisted his ankle, but he was wounded, and if he hadn't been delivered in time, his leg would have been useless. That's what the teacher said. Zhang Ernia was good at gesturing, at the beginning. The swelling is so thick, the whole calf is swollen. The teacher said, fortunately he is young. He has a good body, otherwise, it would be really troublesome. Luo Xiaoxian sighed. Oh, my brother has a stubborn temper. No one else can tell him what he is sure about, unless he figured it out by himself. You are tired of taking care of him, right? Not tired, he is very considerate of others. You, turn around and persuade him, don't stop drinking water just to avoid going to the bathroom. How can people do without drinking water? Luo Xiaoxian's eyes widened. He can't go to the toilet by himself. No, he can go to the toilet by himself, but he doesn't want to bother me, so he doesn't want to bother me, so he always doesn't drink water, and only takes a few sips when he eats. I don't listen to what I say. Luo Xiaoxian curled her lips. It's rare to be considerate of others. Well, he really has a very good personality and is quite responsible. Ah, Luo Xiaoxian was a little taken aback. How did this have something to do with responsibility? My grandma said that when a man is sick, he can hold back and not bother others. He is a responsible man. If something happens, he will definitely not run away. A woman who marries such a man is the happiest. Where is this all? Luo Xiaoxiang really didn't know what to say, but her purpose was to find out Zhang Ernio's tone first, so she continued to ask, do you want to marry such a person in the future? Zhang Ernio's dark red face turned purple, but she still nodded generously, well, I will find a responsible man in the future. Luo Xiaoxiang teased her with a smirk on her face, if it weren't for being sick, you wouldn't be able to judge whether you are responsible or not. Zhang Ernio looked serious. My grandma said, go to the vegetable market with a man, and those who are willing to bring vegetables are responsible. Oh, Luo Xiaoxiang nodded again and again, this is a good way, your grandma is too wise in life, if I have the opportunity, I must visit your grandma. Well, I'll take you there. Zhang Ernio held Luo Xiaoxiang's hand with a happy face, I'm so glad you came. I saw Chu Xia a few days ago, and I saw you again today, he. Come to play with you some other day in early summer. You can also visit us when you are resting. Let's go and visit my brother with me. If I go by myself, he might not know how to show his face to me. With you here, he is embarrassed. Men are like this. In front of their own family, they don't pay attention to it. With outsiders, it takes face. My father is also like this, but my father treats my mother very well. Zhang Ernio looked longingly, I can find someone in the future. A man like my father is fine, he can work, he is kind to his family, and he doesn't beat anyone. Those advantages in the front are normal, but the latter one, Luo Xiaoxiang looked at Zhang Ernio in surprise, your men still beat people a lot. It's too much. Half of the men in my village beat their wives. Some of them beat their wives to death. Zhang Ernio shrank her neck, we have a family across the door, and the man often gets up in the middle of the night to beat his wife, after beating, strip off your clothes and drive them into the yard, even in winter. His wife doesn't know how to run away. Luo Xiaoxiang was speechless, what kind of life do you have with such a man? They have 3 children. If the woman dares to leave, the man will sell the child. The man said it himself. His wife loves the child, so how dare she run away? The cotters in your village don't care about this. I don't care. But when the cotter came to the door, he would talk a lot and promise not to commit a crime in the future. As long as the cotter left, he would do whatever he wanted. The cotter can't come and stare at the door all day. Besides, his father was a murderer, and the cotters didn't dare to really mess with him, for fear that he would be as messed up as his father. Alas, it's really hard for a woman to marry into such a family. My grandma said that when I look for my in-laws' family in the future, she will check for me and specify that I can't let me find a man who has a bad life and ruin my life. You adore your grandma. My grandma is the best for me. Zhang Ernio smiled embarrassedly, we don't care about girls, and I eat too much. If I put it in someone else's house, I would have hated it long ago, but my grandma will not. Me, she said I was blessed to be able to eat. When we go to the draft. I didn't plan to go, it was my grandma who asked me to go, saying that it didn't matter whether I could be selected or not. Go for a cut scene, maybe you will have good luck. In the end, I really got lucky. 90% of our girls don't go to school. My grandma said that women are better literate than illiterate, so she let me go, and it turned out that I was coming, he. No wonder Zhang Ernio didn't even know the angle, and she was selected. It turned out that the generals were selected by the dwarfs, and the recruitment of medical soldiers was determined by the leaders based on the lack of local medical resources. After female soldiers change jobs, they can continue to return to the local area to serve. Luo Hunky, who had been holding back all morning, finished solving his personal problems, and begged Zhao Qiliang to ask the doctor when he would be able to leave the hospital. Zhao Qiliang pointed helplessly at his thick ankle, Do you still have to ask the doctor if you can leave the hospital? Just look at your place. After you go back, wouldn't it be more troublesome to come to hang the bottle every day? The class can also give you a prescription alone as soldier takes care of you. Logo Hunky's face wrinkled bitterly, because he didn't want him to drag the class back, so he was allowed to stay in the hospital. With his current situation, how could the squad leader be willing to go back? At such a critical time, he is really upbeat. Zhao Qiliang didn't know what to persuade him, so he just sat there in silence. Go and do your work, I'm fine. Luo Hong issued an eviction order under his flag. Zhao Qiliang hesitated, and said, Xiaoxian will come over in a while, I'll wait for her here. Didn't I tell you not to tell her? Luo Hunky's voice suddenly increased, how can you keep your word? In 2 days, I'll leave. After a pause, Zhao Qiliang looked at him seriously, I know you're not feeling well, it will be better if your relatives are by your side. I know you're doing it for my own good, but I don't want her to worry. If she writes to my parents, then my parents will also be worried. Didn't I tell you that? Why don't you listen to it? She won't, don't worry. Zhao Qiliang sighed, both of you, brother and sister, look down on each other. This is the most common mistake many relatives make. Let go of the cognition you have always had about the other party, and after careful observation, you will find that the other party is not as stupid as you imagined. What I said may not sound good, but it is for your own good. If you believe me, it will be like this. Try it out, the result will definitely be unexpected. Luo Hunky stared straight at him, you also said this to Xiaoxian? No. Zhao Qiliang shook his head, I wanted to tell her, but I didn't say it. You can tell me if you can't tell her? Are you afraid of her? Zhao Qiliang looked at Luo Hunky in surprise, and then laughed, brother, if someone says you are straight-hearted in the future, I am anxious with him. You are just too lazy to think about it. In fact, as long as you are willing to use your brain, absolutely no dumber than anyone. Are you praising me? Certainly. The door was pushed open, Luo Xiaoxian and Zhang Ernia came in, first glanced carefully at her brother's face. Luo Xiaoxian said, what are you two talking about, it's so lively. How can I tell you about the conversation between men? Zhao Qiliang stood up with a smile, you brothers and sisters are talking, I'm going to the cafeteria to get some food, uncle must be hungry, I heard my stomach growling just now. Make a copy for Niu or two. No. No, 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 Zhang Ernia waved her hands again and again, I'll go to the cafeteria to eat later. You have taken care of my brother for so long, it's too cheap for him to treat you to a cafeteria. Luo Xiaoxian said, looking at her brother, brother, please treat me to lunch today, and remember to return the meal ticket to Zhao Qiliang later. I invite you. Luo Hunky glanced at his sister. I'm not married yet, I'm thinking about putting money into my son-in-law's pocket first. You're really promising. Brother, I'm giving you a chance. You can't figure it out. The girl has taken care of you for such a long time. You can't thank her? If you invite her alone, will she be ashamed to eat? Luo Hunky scratched his head in embarrassment, I was wrong. Now you know you're wrong? You don't tell me when you're hurt, and you still want to keep it from me, brother, don't you really think I'm your sister? No, you are so busy. I don't want to affect your work. Luo Hunky looked at his sister seriously, you are more promising than my brother, how can I let my brother delay you? Hey, my brother just doesn't live up to it. Like me. What nonsense are you talking about? Luo Xiaoxian glared at him, tell me, you used to think that your family should do anything for you, but now, you feel embarrassed that your family can do anything for you. Can't you be normal? Zhang Ernia quickly persuaded, Xiaoqian, don't worry, your brother loves you so much, he said that because he respects your parents, so don't be angry with him. He is still sick. Okay, I'll forgive him for the sake of his illness. Lugo Xiaoxian sighed heavily. Niuer, if I can have a sister-in-law like you, I can rest assured. My silly brother, if I meet he's a bad-hearted guy. You can really sell him. I'll go to the dining hall to see, 4 people's food can't be brought by one person, so you can talk first, Zhang Erniu said, and ran out as if fleeing. Xiaoxian, look at you, are you embarrassing her? Lugo Hunky glared at her younger sister. You are such an adult, remember to be careful with your words in the future, otherwise you won't be able to get off the stage. Lugo Xiaoxian looked at Lugo Hunky's expression. Brother, do you like Zhang Erniu? Lugo Hunky was taken aback for a moment, then quickly shook his head. No. Really? After a pause, Lugo Hunky shook his head again. No. Are you sure? Lugo Xiaoxian squinted at him. Brother, you will bear the consequences of lying. What consequences? Zhang Erniu's family wants her to find her husband's family earlier, and she also wants to settle down earlier. If brother is not interested, I can't delay her. Lugo Hunky was at a loss. Why did you delay her? I thought my brother liked her, so I deliberately set her up. She had a good impression of her. I told her that my brother had a good impression of her. Now it seems that I made a mistake. How do you know that I like her? Didn't you just know that I was injured today, the first time? Yo, are you telling the truth? Lugo Xiaoxian laughed. You really are not deceitful. Can someone take a fancy to me? Lugo Hunky didn't complain about his sister, but instead asked with a perturbed face, Xiaoxian, do you think she can really take a fancy to me? Brother, I won't lie to people about this kind of thing, and I won't hide it from you. It was Zhaoqi Liang who saw that you were interested in her. As for me, I'll go talk to her first. She should be looking for someone like brother. Man. I lived in a dormitory with her, and we got along relatively well. I can assure you of her character, but I must also guarantee that I really like her and treat her well, and I must also guarantee that I will never associate with Zhong Hongying again. I'll help you get together. What does mean? That's what you said? Okay. Lugo Xiaoxian turned her embarrassment into curiosity. Brother, can you tell me what you like about Zhang Erniu, so that I can talk to her conveniently? Lugo Hunky paused for a while, then said, I like her appearance, and I also like her temper. Lugo Xiaoxian compared Zhong Hongying and Zhang Erniu in her mind, and finally came to the conclusion that, his brother likes those with dark skin and red, and apart from this, the two have nothing else in common. Brother, do you think Chu Xia is prettier, or Zhang Erniu? Lugo Xiaoxian has always been very entangled in her brother's disdain for Chu Xia. It's not that she wants to marry her brother in early summer, but she really doubts her brother's aesthetics. It was obvious, but without hearing her brother say it himself, she was still a little uncertain. Lugo Hunky didn't even think about it. Of course Zhang Erniu is pretty. Really? Lugo Xiaoxian was covered in blood by her brother Lei, with her mouth half opened, unable to utter a single word. Lugo Hunky looked at his sister seriously, and emphasized again, I know, most people think Chu Xia is pretty, but I think Zhang Erniu is pretty. Zhang Erniu, who happened to push the door and came in, had a flushed face instantly. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 345. The third watch arrives. Today I owe one watch, and I will continue to work hard tomorrow. Knowing what Zhang Erniu was listening to what he said, Lugo Hunky's dark face also turned into a reddish purple, and he murmured for a long time without uttering a word. Zhaoqi Liang, who was blocked outside the door, coughed softly, Xiaoxian, come quickly and help me pick up the lunch box. The net bag is a little loose, and the soup is about to spill out. Here we come. Lugo Xiaoxian stepped forward quickly and pulled Zhang Erniu in. She smiled at Zhaoqi Liang and gave him a thumbs up. I'll go to see the teacher, she may have something to do with me. Zhang Erniu put down the lunch box, then walked out with her head drooping. Luo Xiaoxian grabbed her and said, "It's time for dinner, so don't bother the teacher. By the way, my brother is the only one in Ward 302. It's really good treatment for one person in 6 beds." Zhang Erniu murmured and explained, there were originally 3 people, and the other 2 were discharged from the hospital. There are many people living in Ward 303 next to it, but I am an intern, and the teacher is worried about letting me take care of them. So that's how it is. I'm still wondering. My brother's treatment is too arrogant, and he's even in a special ward, he. Luo Xiaoxian pushed Zhang Erniu on the chair. "Don't be embarrassed, men and women marry, it's a very normal thing. I got engaged to Zhaoqi Liang before I joined the army, and I chased him. If you don't hate my brother, just look around with my brother. In his eyes, you are perfect." Zhang Erniu quickly glanced at Luo Hunky, and said in a low voice, "Didn't the army stipulate that dating is not allowed during the recruit period? You guys have to come here clearly." Luo Xiaoxian gave her a white look. "Didn't you just say that your parents also hope that you will settle down early? When they go home to visit relatives, they will definitely arrange for you to go on a blind date. Then you might as well just find one yourself, look around, and get together if your personality matches. If you don't get along, just find someone else. It's better than you go back and listen to the matchmaker and make up the mind, right? Besides, don't all the men in your place like to beat their wives? My brother sure doesn't have that problem, he does. Although he was a stubborn ass since he was a child, he never hit a girl. Let me tell you this, he used to get really bad with Chu Xia, and Chu Xia had a bad temper, so he often beat him, but he never fought back." Zhang Erniu twisted the corner of her clothes, with a shy expression on her face. "How pretty Chu Xia looks." "You look good without the help of his sister," Luo Hunky repeated himself. "You look much better than Chu Xia." Zhaoqi Liang. "Brother. Are you having trouble with your eyes?" "Hey," Luo Xiaoxian poked Zhaoqi Liang. "Do you think I'm prettier or Chu Xia is prettier? You look good, of course you look good." "Cut," Luo Xiaoxian rolled her eyes. "For a person with normal aesthetics like you won't think I'm good looking. I'd like to see Chu Xia's small appearance. What's more, you guys say she's not good looking." "Yes. They are all incompetent and unworthy of him, so pretend I don't know." Zhaoqi Liang smiled narrowly. "Xiaoxian, do you mean that your brother's aesthetics is abnormal or that your brother is not good enough for Chu Xia?" "Aesthetics are not normal." Zhang Erniu pointed to the tip of her nose. "He said I look better than Chu Xia, so it must be because of abnormal aesthetics." "You are prettier than Chu Xia." Luo Hunky looked serious. "My sister and Lin Chuxia can wear a pair of pants. No matter how ugly Chu Xia is, she still looks good in Chu Xia. This prejudice is not so deep." Luo Xiaoxian said that she didn't know what to say. Lu Lianbao had just finished his meal when someone came to inform him that Captain Zhou had invited him, so he trotted to the office of the leader, and saw Zhong Hongying standing in the office with red and swollen eyes. How could he not understand what happened, and immediately stood salute, "Report to the leader, I want to participate in the mission, and I will never quit." Zhou Mikang nodded and looked at Zhong Hongying. "This is his own choice, and I have no right to interfere. I didn't ask you to quit. I just asked you to marry me. After you get married, you can go after the big army. Isn't this kind of request okay?" Zhong Hongying looked at Lu Lianbao pitifully. "Only when I get married can I be honest. Be filial to your father-in-law and mother-in-law. Even if you don't think about me, shouldn't you also think about your own parents? If you want, we'll get married right away when I come back." Lu Lianbao looked at her seriously. "I said, there won't be any record of marriage in your file." Zhou Mikang answered, "I promised him this, and I will help you do it. Head, I know that as long as you give an order, he will definitely follow it. If I'm dragging his legs and not letting him go on missions, it's because I'm not enlightened enough. But now I want him to give me a reasonable identity to take care of his parents before he goes out on a mission, and at the same time, let me have an account with my parents. The wedding letter was sent back a long time ago. My parents also prepared a dowry for me, invited relatives, and left within 2 days. Now I tell them that the wedding is over. How can they stay in the village? What face do I have to go back to the village in the future? Commander, since your wife and I are fellow villagers, please help me once, okay? If you don't believe me, you can ask your wife, see if the people in our place really like to chew their tongues so much. Also, if the wedding is cancelled, how can the parents-in-law stay in the village? He also told his family the news of the marriage. If he just cancelled it like this, others would think it was me who went back on his word. If you obviously don't blame me, but you have to be misunderstood by everyone, how wronged am I? Lu Lianbao, who was still a little moved, had a look of disappointment in his eyes. It turned out that she insisted on being with him for the sake of face. When I first met her, I was attracted by her hard work and dignified appearance, and felt that marrying such a wife would make his life complete. But after really getting in touch with her for a long time, he discovered that all her efforts were actually for the sake of face. To put it bluntly, it was vanity, and being stronger than others and overwhelming others was her ultimate goal. Of course, it's not wrong to think so, but the key point is that she shouldn't dislike anyone, and feel inferior to herself. When I was with him, I heard her talking about her comrades in arms. None of them were good, except for herself, which he disliked very much. But every time he objected, she would express disappointment that she just wanted to vent and get comfort from him, not to listen to his rationale. The reason why he called off the wedding urgently was that besides the mission, there was another very important reason, that is, after she learned that the wife married by the regiment leader was from her hometown, she kept saying in front of him that the girl was in the village. When he was in the village, his reputation was not good, and he almost married the son of the director of the commune. He believed in the leader's vision. How could a person who has persisted in his relationship for so many years and has an obsession with emotional cleanliness be deceived by a girl with an impure mind? Besides, no matter what the leader's wife is like, as a fellow villager, how can she be demoted? Can such a woman really stay together for a lifetime? Did you really marry him because you liked him? After asking himself many times, and recalling the details of the relationship between the two of them, he learned another piece of news that surprised him. That was Zhong Hongying's boyfriend before she came out to serve as a soldier, Luo Hunky of the recruit company, and when she broke up with Luo Hunky completely, it was when she expressed her heart to her. This was the last straw that overwhelmed him. In order to save face for her, he chose this solution. Moreover, there was no overreaching between the two of them, and he promised not to leave any past records on her file. The traces of marriage, doing this is considered as the utmost benevolence, right? But he didn't expect that she found the leader here. With this method, he was really disappointed with this woman. Leader, I still stick to my original idea. Seeing that Zhou Mikang kept staring at him and did not express his opinion, Lu Lianbao had no choice but to emphasize it again. Okay, Zhou Mikang looked at Zhong Hongying, you can leave now. If you have any comments, please report to your company commander. Captain Zhou. The tears in Zhong Hongying's eyes flowed down again. Please help me because your wife and I are fellow villagers. She promised me to come to you. Could it be, do you really not take her face seriously?